So I've been given 5 minutes to try to wrap everything up and give you some examples of how you can get involved, as well as introduce the following panelists. So we'll see how quickly we can breeze through this. I apologize if I lose you, but hopefully it's all pretty easy. Charlene started with saying if a person has money, there are two things they can probably do with it. They can just sheerly give it away on one hand, or they can invest it on the other hand. I think what we all were talking about today is we all feel those lines are blurring. So let's look at this a little bit. Given this framework, I would say a tobacco stock is a purely financial return. I don't see a lot of social good coming from it. It wastes water, it hurts people. It's not really a good thing, but it can make you a lot of money. On the other hand, if you drop money in the bucket as you're going out with a Salvation Army Santa, you are just giving money away. You don't expect anything for it, but you feel good about it, so that's great. But that to me is an example of purely charitable giving. What is impact investing? So Jim says impact investing is doing good while doing well, and I agree with that. But to me it's slightly different, which is it is investing in an entity where the decision to invest is based more on the social return than on the financial return. Again, the financial return is an important piece of it, but so is the social return. And in this case, you want metrics on both. You want to understand, what do I want out of the social return and what do I want out of the financial return? So to me, impact investing covers almost the entire spectrum between the tobacco stock and the Salvation Army Santa. It can take a bunch of different, and let's go forward one. It can take on something like a life sciences investment. I want to invest in somebody who's trying to cure cancer. I expect that if they do that, it's going to have a great social good. But I also expect that if they do that, it's going to have a great financial return. I think on the other side, you can invest in something like the local spice incubator kitchen, which really benefits refugees, really helps start up businesses, helps empower people. But it will give a little bit less of a financial return than a new cancer drug. So that to me is social investing in a general spectrum. And I guess before I gloss over that, one of the things Lance brought up is if you want to look at venture philanthropy on top of what I'm strictly defining as impact investing, venture philanthropy encompasses that whole spectrum as well, maybe giving a little bit of money with a little bit of time. And I don't want to throw that under the bus for strictly the sake of impact investing. But coming back to impact investing, hopefully somebody in here tonight has never heard of impact investing before, doesn't really know what it is, and they're kind of fired up about doing something about it. I tried to come up with a little bit of a matrix that shows the relative ease or difficulty of getting into impact investing for an investor, and give some examples of ways that you might be actionable on it. So to me, there are a bunch of social responsibility mutual funds, and there are equity investments in publicly traded companies like Tesla Motors, if you're an environmentalist, that you can make investments in. You can talk to your financial advisors about it, and they can help you make these decisions. Really not that hard to do. Spend a little bit of time on the computer. You can trade it in 3 days if you decide you don't like it, so there's not a real long-lasting effect. But it's a very low-touch way to get involved, and a great way to get involved. Slightly up the spectrum would be loan or a guarantee to a nonprofit organization. As opposed to merely giving them a gift, you could maybe give them a bigger check, but say, here are the conditions under which I want it to be repaid. You know, this is some growth capital for you. How are you going to use it to really scale up your mission? How are you going to use it to bring on a key new hire and transition them into it? Not used that often right now, but I think you'll see more and more of this. Leonardo does some things around this, and other organizations do as well. Social impact bonds, which we'll cover in just a minute, are a very new field here, and Utah is a really interesting place at the forefront of this. Still not sure what it looks like from an investing spectrum, but it could be really, really interesting. So we'll get to that in a moment. The two at the top I'd like to talk about because they're near and dear to my heart. The first is direct seed stage equity, and this is investing in a company like Aaron's that is not public yet, that is still a long way from being something that's going to scale up and go public. Has a long holding period. We really want to meet him and meet the others. You might want some help from Kurt and the PIN Network or the Sorensen Center to be able to do some due diligence on these things. But they're intensely personal, and they're a really good way to get involved with some of these social companies. Social venture funds are another piece here. Jim mentioned Unitas, which is great if you want to be on the global equity side. There are some large cap players in this space. Kleiner Perkins has a big green tech fund. Right here in Utah at the Sorensen Center is the University Social Innovation Fund, and we are going to be Utah focused, direct investing as well as other investments in impact investments here locally.